Natural Gas Forums for Landowner video series on natural gas leasing. My name is Ron Stamets. This little chat is about the issues that you, the landowner, should consider before negotiating a natural gas lease. When we were approached in 2007 to lease our land, I began a crash course in what drilling might entail. The sheer size of drilling surprised me. Here we see an area which will be transformed from an overgrown field and some woods to a drill pad. Then the heavy equipment arrives and begins clearing the area needed for setting up drill rigs. Dirt's moved and trees are cleared to provide a stable level site. The old land's transformed into what now appears to be the base for a new highway. When all the grading and preparation is finished, the rig arrives along with the workmen. The well pad is now a bustling drilling operation. When the drilling rig has reached its intended depth and length, baker tanks filled with water are trucked on the site, and the equipment arrives to frack the well. Huge pumps on trucks are connected to a maze of pipes and hoses, and a mix of sand and water is pumped into the well at extremely high pressure. The water forced into the shale forces the cracks to open, and sand, called proppant, helps to keep the cracks open. This allows the natural gas to be released efficiently. Once a well pad's been completed, the valves and connections to the gathering lines are what are left on the well pad. Then, the last responsibility of the driller is to restore the area, generally to its original contours. Here we see the overgrown field in its restored state shortly after the drilling was completed. All of the phases of the gas drilling and production are controlled by the content of the lease document you create. Now take note, I said the lease you create. The company lease that most landowners are presented with often contains language that gives the company greater leverage for the use of your land that, if you were aware of it, you would probably not agree to. Unfortunately, history has shown many landowners sign company boilerplate leases with less information acquired than in buying a new refrigerator. Boilerplate leases that were signed early on by landowners in my area included language that gave the companies some of the following benefits. Free right-of-ways for pipelines, even if there was no well and property not even included in a drilling unit. Undefined compensation for trees that might have to be cut or fields removed from crop production. Undesirable disposal of drilling tailings. Free use of wells no longer profitable for production converted into gas storage, free of charge. Total control for locating roads and weld pads. An unlimited time span for a well to be shut in. No requirements for a well capable of producing natural gas within the primary term of the lease. And automatic or designated lease renewals at the same terms as the original, even if lease values have doubled or tripled in that time period. The lease document that the landman presents to you is what the company wants you to offer them. The company lawyers wrote it to benefit the company. You need to read it carefully, and in the same way that you would lease or rent an apartment to a renter, you need to put the terms that are important to you in that document. That's most often done by including additional addenda to a lease document which supersedes certain clauses in that boilerplate lease, or by having an experienced qualified natural gas attorney draw up a lease for you to present to the landman or company representative. I can't stress enough that you're not negotiating a simple bonus payment royalty agreement. You're entering into a long-term partnership with a multi-million-dollar corporation for the shared use of your land that can affect you and your heirs across multiple generations. A poorly planned lease is guaranteed to come back and bite you right in the rear end. In another video, I'll be breaking down a boilerplate lease from a landowner's perspective. Land acquisition companies depend on landowners keeping their lease offer information tight to the hip. That way, landowners can be manipulated into signing off on inferior leases and signing bonuses, and royalty offers can be kept low for all but the most informed. Case in point, I'm aware of two neighbors. One's a businessman who's been in the stone business for generations. The other, an elderly lady whose husband passed on years before. Both were approached by the same landman. The elderly lady didn't want her neighbor to intrude on her private dealings, and the stone man, well, it probably never even crossed his mind to talk with the elderly lady. The stone man negotiated a lease that included a favored nations clause. That is, that the company agreed that if the price negotiated for a property within a certain distance from his was offered a greater bonus or royalty, he would be paid the difference to keep his terms in line with the higher offers. The elderly lady, not being aware of her neighbor's expertise or the lease terms he was able to negotiate, quietly signed off on a $25 an acre bonus, 12.5% royalty on a 5-year lease with a 5-year renewal at the original terms. I believe that the elderly lady's lease involved about 150 acres, for which she received $25 an acre. Had she and her neighbor communicated together and shared what they knew with one another, she would have ended up with a payment of over $2,800 an acre on her bonus. Which brings me to the last and probably the most important point of our little chat. If landowners want to maximize the benefit of their leasing efforts, neighbors need to network what they know and what they're learning together. The landman's job is to get you to sign a lease that's suited best for the company they represent, not you. You need to cover your neighbor's back, and your neighbor needs to cover your back. When you communicate with one another and combine your expanding knowledge, you're far less likely to get taken to the cleaners than by standing alone. As a landowner, it's the responsibility to be a good steward of your land. So when considering to negotiate a natural gas lease, write down the most important goal, long-term plans for how you want your land to be managed. In some cases, you may not want the surface of your land to be used for well pads and gathering lines, but would be interested in receiving royalties from natural gas under your land. Well, current horizontal drilling techniques enable drill bits to reach depths over 7,000 feet and extend horizontally thousands of feet deep below the surface. You might be able to negotiate a non-surface use lease, or not lease at all. My goal for this little chat was to cause you to think beyond what the landman is telling you and provide you with some food for thought to help you make some better informed decisions. I hope this has helped you.